Hello my friends, I'm Rich Larson and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today we're talking suspension, specifically suspension settings and testing on the 2024 Husky TE300. We'll be going through some big changes I made as well as my exact testing protocol that I do on every bike, which I think will help you guys with your own approach to your clicker adjustments. Now, as you guys know, I've been continually improving the Husky, starting with the brakes, then the power, and now the suspension. If you guys remember, I struggled to get the bike to settle into the corners, but still have that resistance on the hard hits. Really, this is what everyone looks for and why I feel bad for what every suspension company and tuner has to deal with. We want a plush but firm setting. After testing the suspension in the stock form, I still desired a bit more performance. Now, there's a company here in Utah called Alpine XC. Alpine XC has developed a new product called red cone valves. Essentially, the claim is these will give you 90% of cone valve suspension at a fraction of the cost. Red cones are a mid-valve design to radically improve the operating range, which again is exactly what I was looking for. I want to be able to leave my suspension in one place for the majority of riding that I do. The cool thing is this is a local Utah company that developed this from scratch, so I was completely on board with testing this stuff. Now, I had Alpine XC set it up for me, but you can also buy these cones for like 300 bucks and do it yourself. From there, we went to testing. Now, I filmed this testing approach live over 3 days of riding. Essentially, my goal is to tune the suspension for each differing terrain and discipline. I base the discipline I'd be riding each of the 3 days on what I ride the majority of the time. I go through technical turn track, endurocross, as well as hard enduro. Throughout the 3 days, I'll be showing you guys the exact clicker settings I start with, then where I end up at the end of each day, the adjustments I made, and why. Keep in mind, I filmed all of this stuff myself throughout the 3 days of testing. Enjoy, and I hope it helps with your own suspension settings. All right, guys, now that you know what the red valves are, we're here live at one of my turn tracks to do the first testing on this new setup. Now, I'm really excited about kind of how we're going to approach this, so you guys get to see exactly what I do to every bike to go through the suspension changes and find a setting that best suits me. Now, what we have here is a turn track that I've made out here in Utah. I would say it's the closest thing to endurocross without any logs or rocks. It's very technical, it's very hard. The reason I set it up this way is I ride a lot of technical stuff, right? I do ride a lot of endurocross, I ride a little bit of turn track, and I ride a lot of hard enduro, and that's kind of what we're gonna go throughout the next 3 days. We're gonna start here. I'm gonna show you guys my initial setup and then the changes that I make. Then we're gonna ride a little bit of endurocross tomorrow, or natural endurocross tomorrow. Then we're gonna head up to the mountains and get into the hard enduro stuff. Essentially, the whole goal of this is to find a setting that works well everywhere. So I'm gonna be making very small changes as we move into tomorrow and the next day, but today is where the big changes are going to happen. Once again, this is a very technical track. There's a lot of G-outs, there's a lot of precision in the laps here. We've got our lap time tester, and essentially I'm just gonna break down exactly how I do this, but first I wanna talk about what the setup is. Obviously, we have the red valves in the suspension right now, and we've gone all the way back to the base setting. So what I like to do when I set up my suspension, we do a 110 sag, and we go to the comfort settings in your book. This is the comfort settings. This is exactly what they look like. You can see where the clickers are set. Now, the reason I set the clickers here is I have a good understanding of what the bike is going to feel like at that comfort setting. Usually, it's a little bit too soft and it's a little bit too fast. And what you'll probably see me do throughout the day is go stiffer and slower with the compression and rebound on both front and rear suspension. And I want you guys to see the difference in how big of a change that is. Now, I've done this so many times that I have a good understanding of what the bike is gonna feel like in the comfort setting and the direction that I need to go. What I'm expecting is the bike to kind of blow through in certain places and we may have a little bit of a loss of traction here and there because of the fast rebound. This is a great track to do it because, again, there's a lot of sharp edges. There's a lot of like weird rollers. It's very, very hard packed, so you really have to tiptoe around the course. It's going to be a lot of fun. So what we're going to do is go out with this base setting, lay down 5 laps, set our times. Again, I've got my lap time tester here, so you're going to be able to see exactly what my times are. Then we're just going to go through and make small changes. I'm going to break that down as we do it. Then hopefully we can get a good setting and hopefully make some improvements on our lap time. So let's get right into it. All right, guys, we just did our first 5 laps, pretty gnarly. Yeah, it was definitely what I kind of expected with the suspension. So again, at this comfort setting, what I feel is it's first off super soft. It's a little bit too soft for this course. There's a lot of kind of heavy G outs, and it just seems like it's blowing through a little bit, right? So from here, we're gonna obviously go stiffer. I also do expect that it is a little bit too fast with the rebound, both front and rear. Especially, honestly, in the front, I feel like it just wants to let go in some of the like braking bumps, acceleration bumps, these kind of sharp or quick rollers that are all over this course. I just feel like the front wants to go. So that could be a symptom of it being too soft, but I kind of expect it to be both. That being said, I'm only gonna make one change at a time. And now what I'm going to do here, now that we've got these lap times, and you guys can see exactly what we laid down there, what we're going to do, we're not going to turn the lap timer on for these changes. Now, I don't like to look at my lap time for the changes. I'm just feeling the bike. I also will only do like 2 laps. So I'm going to go out, lay down the first lap, and then one more lap usually after that. And the reason I only do 2 laps is because I don't want to get into a place where I'm adapting to the bike with the way the bike feels. So I'm gonna make one change. Usually you'll go out on the first lap and you'll go, okay, I definitely feel like it's stiffer. And then you kind of lay down another lap and you're like, okay, I think I might be able to go a little further here. And then you'll kind of start to adapt, or at least I will. I'll start to kind of adapt to that change. And I don't want to do too many laps where it's like at the end of it, I'm like, I don't know, I guess I could probably handle that, or maybe it feels like this or that. 1 to 2 laps is a dialed place to go, in my opinion. So I'm going to lay down 2 laps. First, I'm going to make a compression change on the fork. So we're just going to go 3 clicks stiffer. And each one of these changes that I'm doing, I'm going to do them in clicks of 3. So I'm going to do 3 clicks in on the compression, stiffen it up a little bit. Then we'll probably go to the rebound on the forks, and we're going to slow it down a little bit, going in with that compression, dampening. See if that helps. But each time it's going to be 3 clicks, 2 laps, 3 clicks, 2 laps. I'm going to do that until I think I find a good setting with these changes, and then I'm going to lay down another 5. But let's get right into the changes, and then I'm going to let you guys know where I land after this. All right, guys, so we've made our changes. That took quite a bit of time. I was doing 2 laps at a time, making all these changes. It takes a little bit. What you're gonna see here is it's super close to what the sport settings are in the book. So that's kind of the direction that I went. We're, you know, 8 or 9 clicks from the comfort settings, stiffer, slower. It definitely feels a lot better. So let me explain kind of what I was feeling through the testing and the adjustments that I made and why I made them. So first off, kind of what we were feeling was the bike wanted to blow through. I mentioned that after the first set of laps. And the stiffer I went, the better it felt. But then what you start to run into is it seemed like I was losing traction, both on the front and rear tire. A lot of this track is, it's about precision. You have to land in these pockets and land in these little areas to hold traction through and kind of come into the next section, especially down this straight here. I did a Riehu video and somebody called it the non-rhythm section in the comments on YouTube. And I thought that's a good name for that section, the non-rhythm section. There's a lot of little holes and pockets that you have to be very precise in landing in. So first off, if you're blowing through, that's gonna be challenging to correct after you blow through the stroke. So we need that bike to hold up. And the other side that we run into is it seems like it was kind of like losing traction. Again, this is very hard pack. So what was happening was blowing through and then it was kind of rebounding so fast, it was springing me. I felt kind of bouncy. That high-speed rebound, I was just bouncing, both front and rear. There was a couple times on the rear, I felt like I was almost getting cross-rutted. In the places where there was more than one line, I was kind of getting cross-rutted up the face and getting crooked, right? So that is a symptom of a little bit too much high speed. So I started to slow the rebound. And in that slowing of the rebound, that's also allowing the bike to hold up a little bit more. In those sections where you kind of have those repeated bumps, it allows it to settle into those bumps instead of kind of rebounding and lightening up the front end. From there, we also felt some changes in the turns. The bike has started to settle really well, especially with this new red valve cones. The settling feels great. The bike's allowing me to sit into some of these corners, but it's still holding up better than it would be stock. So my hope here is as we go into the next stuff, which is going to be the Endurocross stuff tomorrow, or the natural Endurocross track, where we're going to get in those harder hits. I'm hoping it can hold up and handle those harder hits, but I can still keep it at a somewhat soft setting without needing to change the valving. So we're right at the end of the valving, I would say, on this course, where I would want to go a little bit stiffer for this specifically. But again, we're going to be doing Endurocross and then we're going to be doing hard enduro. So this is probably going to be the stiffest setting, and we'll probably actually go the other direction as we go into Endurocross and hard enduro. We're going to be going softer and faster. So those little changes are very important. I hope you guys are kind of following this. Suspension can be kind of challenging. The more testing you do and the more deliberate you are with your testing, the more of an understanding you'll have of where you should start and what direction the bike needs to go. Again, that's why I always like starting at the comfort, because I kind of know it's going to be soft. And I know it's going to be fast, and I know where I'm going to go from there. Whereas if it was stiff, I would be kind of fighting in the dark to figure out if I needed to go slower or faster, etc. So this is a fun way for me to test. I actually really enjoy doing this stuff. We're going to lay down another 5er, and hopefully we can get a better lap time or a better set of lap times on our lap time challenge here. And yeah, I think this should be a good one. And I'm excited. We're going to get into Endurocross. I mean, there's so much in this video. It's going to be kind of a long video, but I hope you guys are enjoying it, and let's lay down 5. Okay guys, I just finished those 5 laps, and yeah, so I tried not to look at the lap times during the moto. Obviously it's kind of hard to look at the lap times anyway, because I'd have to be looking at the lap times, not what I'm riding, and I don't have a lot of time to look down. That being said, I did get a look at one of them and I was like, oh dang, I'm like 2 seconds faster. Every single lap, for the most part, was consistently 2 seconds faster, nearly 2 seconds faster on every single lap. It felt that way too. It didn't feel like it was, you know, I felt way more tractable, didn't feel like it was blowing through, felt like I had more precision because I wasn't fighting the suspension, because it wasn't blowing through, which is what I expected, right? I've done this kind of test to a lot of bikes. I usually start with the comfort settings, and I do end up somewhere close to sport settings, but you want to know kind of as you make those adjustments. Now, that being said, I have added to this bike since I originally did this test when I first got it. And because we have these red valve cone valves in the fork, it's pretty amazing the difference. I mean, I would definitely say I feel like there's way more hold up even when I have a softer setting. So you want to be going as soft, in my opinion, you want to go as soft as you can. For the technical riding, you want to be as close to bottoming as possible, because that bike's going to sit into the stroke. That being said, any hard hit, as soon as you get out of control, you're going to be wishing that you had stiffer suspension. And that's kind of the way you want to think about it. It's like, you know, be as soft as you can, but just remember, the softer you go, when you need it, it ain't going to be there. And I like to, again, start at the comfort and go towards that sport setting. I think a lot of guys just go straight to the sport. It's like, to me, man, don't be afraid to go super soft and super fast and then make those adjustments. To me, it's easier to feel when something's super soft and super fast, kind of than the other way, right? You might feel like, oh, it's stiff enough, but I need it to be in the stroke more, or I need it to rebound a little bit less or more, or whatever. Those adjustments, in my opinion, are harder to make when you have a really stiff setup. So I like to go all the way to that end of that spectrum and then come towards it. And what you're gonna see is I'm actually gonna creep the other direction as we go through these tests. I expect us to creep the other direction. That being said, these red valves seem to hold up a little bit more. They're allowing the bike to settle, but they're holding up on the hard hits. And that's exactly the problem that I ran into with the stock WP stuff. I felt like I couldn't get the bike to settle without going super soft on the compression. But in the hard hits, it just would not hold up, and we're getting a tighter zone here. And hopefully a more well-rounded zone. We're gonna see in tomorrow's test in Endurocross. I'm going on and on here. We got a lot more testing to do. We got 2 more days of testing. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. We'll see you tomorrow on the natural Endurocross track. We're on to day 2 of testing here on the Husky suspension. Day 1 was a lot of fun. As you guys know, you just watched it. Yeah, I'm really happy with the settings that we landed on. And honestly, I've already done a few laps. I thought we were going to kind of take the same approach that we did on day 1, but now that I'm putting down a few laps here, I'm kind of thinking ahead to day 3. So I do ride a lot of natural Endurocross, and that's where we are right now. This is a natural Endurocross track that I've built. I have a few of them around. I'll dabble a little bit in Endurocross. I love this style of track because it's kind of turn track hybrid. A lot of boulders, a lot of double blips. You still get the intensity in the corners and all of that, but then you get some added rocks, which is kind of fun. I enjoy this style of riding quite a bit, and I do want to set the suspension for that. That being said, the main thing that I ride, as I've continually said in this video, is hard enduro. So I'm setting the bike as well-rounded as I can, but as close to hard enduro as possible. Now, if I was riding a little bit more high-speed stuff, I would be going in that stiffer and slower direction, which is exactly where we went on the turn track I was riding. But as I said, that turn track is about as tech as it gets for a turn track. This takes that to the next level with some big boulders. And what you're starting to see is the little bit of nuance and the little differences that you feel in your suspension when you're dealing with double blips, when you're dealing with those kind of like sharp edge doubles, stuff where you're gonna get the kick. This is where we actually go the other direction with the rebound. What I've found is a little bit more high speed, speeding up that rebound, backing those clickers out just a little bit allows for that hold-in traction. So you have to be careful here. Obviously, you don't want the bike blowing through, and that's the first thing that I'm looking for out here. I'm looking for the blow through. I want to make sure that it's holding up on these hits, which it is really, really well, which is great. I was hoping I wasn't going to have to go stiffer and then, again, thinking ahead to the hard enduro, have to go softer when I get there. This is the whole goal of the red valve setup. You want to have a setup that can kind of transcend all the forms that you do ride, right? So again, I'm a very technical rider. I ride a little bit of turn track. I ride some enduro cross, but I do ride a lot of hard enduro. The slow pace hard enduro, we're looking for traction up the big ledges, in the river beds, up the climbs. That's what we're looking for. Well, that setting is going to be softer and faster. So I'm going to the maximum of stiff and slow with compression and rebound, both front and rear, stiff and slow, on the technical riding that I do. I hope this makes sense to you guys. Again, if I was setting it up for motocross, I'd be going in that direction really far. I'd be going way stiffer and probably way slower. But the setting here is really dialed, and that's already what I'm feeling as I'm putting down laps here. So let's talk about that. The main thing that I looked for right off the bat is the bike blowing through on the harder hits. So some of these I'm coming off into a drop. I kind of am landing in more pockets here because this track has been roomed so much. There's a lot of kind of weird pockets that you land in there can really bottom the bike. And there are some pretty hard hits that you're coming into with speed. So I'm looking for the blow through. The beauty of what I found here was we are right on the edge. I could maybe, if I was only riding this, go 2 or 3 clicks stiffer with the forks and maybe even stiffer in the rear just a little bit, and I'd be very happy with the setup. But again, I'm looking forward to hard enduro. So I'm actually going to leave it where it is because it's pretty forgiving. Now, the other side is the rebound. I like to run the rebound slightly faster than I would on a moto setting on double blips and obstacles like these. The reason I'm doing that is I want the bike to not rebound off of the obstacle. I want it to kind of stick. I'm looking for the stick as I hold traction over the top. We might be able to speed it up a little bit, and it will actually help in the hard enduro situations. Sometimes when you're looking for that little bit faster rebound, as we back those clickers out, you will find a higher ability to hold traction as well, right? So most of the time, I'll also run a little bit more sag in the hard enduro situations, but actually this is feeling pretty solid. Again, we're leaving it at 110. And then as we add that high speed, we're backing the high speed out, making the suspension faster, we find a easier ability to hold traction, right? So far it's working pretty dang good. Let's throw a few more practice laps down and see what happens. Got to do an unstuck technique, right? Yeah. All right, so we've made some adjustments. As I said, I went a little bit faster, just about 3 clicks on the rebound, backing the rebound out, speeding it up just a little bit. And what I found was exactly what I expected. And the reason why I actually set the camera here was this was the main corner that it was happening in. If I didn't grease the backside of that rock just right, it wanted to push if I tried to get this inside line. And I believe that the high-speed rebound was the reason for that. It was just kind of unweighting, unsettling. We didn't want to settle 100%. So we're toting that line. That being said, on the obstacles, it felt way better. Felt like it was tracking so much cleaner over the top of the obstacles. Just 3 clicks made a difference in the feeling of exactly how easy it was to hold that pressure over the top of each one of these obstacles, hold that traction over the top. Felt like I was using a little less energy as well. Just in general, getting over each one of these obstacles, I'm feeling I'm really dialed in on the suspension setting. And again, I'm kind of looking ahead. I'm excited so far though. This red valve stuff is really interesting. Again, it's just kind of what the whole entire goal of the bike was. We wanted to have a softer setting so the bike would settle. but we wanted to have the holdup over the obstacles, and we couldn't get the both with the stock setup. This is allowing me to run a softer valving, allowing the bike to settle, but giving me the holdup on hard hits. I'm very happy with it, and I'm excited to do a little testing in hard enduro. We'll see what changes we make, but right off the bat here with the turn track that we did yesterday and this turn track here, I think tomorrow is going to be dialed in on some hard enduro. So I'm going to get out there and do some hard enduro. That being said, before we do that, I'm going to lay down a moto. I got to get a 30-minute in. I'm feeling a little bit nervous. It took me a minute to think of what I was feeling. I'm feeling nervous. 30 minutes on this type of a turn track is kind of overkill, but I like torture sometimes. All right, we are on to the final stage of testing. We're doing a little bit of hard enduro. Now, we're not gonna get crazy into it because again, I'm filming this all by myself and I don't wanna hike that much. That being said, I'm gonna get a good base setting for some technical riding and see how this bike's performing. Now, as I said previously, I think we're gonna start heading in the other direction. We're gonna go a little bit softer and a little bit faster with the rebound, both front and rear. But that being said, you guys know where we're at. We'll see how it performs out here. We're gonna do some climbs. We're gonna do a lot of just uphill switchbacky stuff where it's loose. We're looking for that extra traction on the rear. We're also looking for a good settle on the front as we get into some of these riverbeds. Should be good. We're gonna get right into it. We're gonna knock out some clips, see how it feels, see how it looks. We'll update you guys. Yeah, I feel like this video is gonna be an hour long already. So this should be fun. Give you guys a good understanding of what directions we're headed. And yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys, we are jumping right into it with this technical loose uphill section. Now, this isn't the gnarliest section, but it is very, very loose. I actually just did kind of a test run through. I made it, but I'm going, I don't know if I can make it for the run that I'm talking through it. So there's some footage of me making it. You can see how blown out it is, how loose it is. I'm a little worried about that final chug to the top. That being said, what we're looking for in this situation is we're feeling the rear rebound. Now, the faster we go with that rear rebound, we'll feel more traction. Of course, there is a point of diminishing returns, and that's why in the higher speed or the technical high speed stuff, we go the other way and slow it down. So we're toting a line here. We want to try to keep it in an area where I can still handle that the previous days of testing, right? So we're going to jump right into it. We'll see how it goes, guys. I don't know if I'm going to make it again or not because it is so blown out. But cruising to a little downhill here. We're always feeling for blow through on the downs, making sure the front suspension doesn't go through. This stuff holds up really well with the red valve in it. Now we're set up a little pivot turn across this off-camber rock or log. I don't know if you guys can see this, but we're talking through it anyway. Believe me, it's somewhat hard. Here we go, nice and slow. Oh, very good. A little bit of a ledge there, kind of a blown out log. Now, we're getting into the loose stuff again. We're feeling for that rebound, feeling for the traction. I want a nice smooth run all the way up. Like I said, I've already done this, so it's a little blown out. Better for testing though, right? Hips back. Starting front wheel high, just a little to kind of compensate for the dropping rear. Setting up, hips back. That felt great. Really smooth. Really solid though, even better than the first run, which is a good sign. That's a good sign. Setting up, same thing. Front tire a little bit high. On the uphill, nice and smooth to this next stopping point. Feeling bad. Now we're setting up here. Now this section is pretty gnarly. It's super loose, as you guys can see, but right here, we don't want to blow out our run-in. So if I'm just gassing through, and I get to this next little step and I gas through it, I've got to set up there and go for the really tough climb, the really hard ledge that I might not even make it up if it's perfect. So I have to be really careful to not blow that out. The way I do that is hopefully get a good run-in from here. I have to get my momentum fully, heavy throttle, then chop and roll over the bank there so I don't blow out my run-in for the next run, which is the most important. Once again, always compensating uphill. Hips back, trying to keep them back, lugging in and then getting on hard. nice. Let's see how I chopped throttle there. Try to chop throttle just so I don't blow out this already blown out run-in. You guys can see in the video that I just did, where I made it, how sugary this, or sorry, silty this dirt is. So I'm gonna try to just be as smooth as I can. I'm almost trying to like lug for the first bit and then just go ham on the power. Here we go. That is how it's done. That felt really good, honestly, guys. Just don't want my bike to fall down the hill here. I hope you guys can tell how steep it is here. Good stuff, heavy run in there. And, you know, a big piece of that is just sticking in it, not giving up, knowing that you can make it. I kind of wheeled into that. I step up the uphill. Then I'm almost like pulling the bike with my left leg to pop it off the root and then hopefully catch a little grab up there. It's all about that clutch control, finding that slip, steady throttle, steady clutch to hold your bike in position. If your rear tire's spinning, this stuff is going to be super gnar. Now, that goes back to suspension too. If it's rebounding too slow, you're going to find it harder to hold traction in those positions where you want to stop. Hold traction. What I just did there 2 times in a row. Holding traction on that side hill. Again, I don't know how steep it looks to you guys, but I'll tell you what, that last part is very steep. It's very challenging. Getting to it's not horrible, but that last bit is a good little challenge and a good little training session. I like it. We're going to move on. We're going to get into some riverbed stuff. This is going to be a lot about the front suspension. Is it settling into those slick sections? And I'm hopefully holding a nice straight line. Let's move on. Mama. Pretty slick.
All right, guys, we just got done with testing. Basically, I just sessioned that waterfall section. It was super, super slick, super gnarly. I definitely feel like we could go softer on the compression in the front. It felt like it wasn't quite settling 100%, and what I did was change it about 3 clicks, and it made it a lot better. I might even go 1 or 2 clicks more. But as I said, this is kind of what you're dealing with suspension. You're trying to find that happy medium. I believe if I went maybe 2 more clicks softer on the front forks, I'd still get the performance I was getting on the other tracks. You always have a little bit of a give and take. I do believe that this red valve has widened that zone out quite a bit. I would go so far in on the forks and the shock, mostly the forks. I would go so far in on the forks and then it wouldn't settle, and it felt like it was settling way more. It felt like I didn't have to go as far in. And then on the other side of things, in hard enduro, I'd have to back them way out and add a lot of rebound. Now, we didn't do a whole lot of testing, to be honest, because honestly, this video is already an hour long. I know this is going to be a really long video, and it's brutal to edit. It's also brutal to hike around by myself with a camera in the woods. So we did a good amount of testing. We're going to test more, but I'm very happy with the setting that we're at. Like I said, I may go 2 more clicks or so, but I'm pretty happy with what we're feeling here, and I'm really happy with these red valves. So make sure you guys head to Alpine XC, check them out. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, as well as follow us on Instagram at IRC Moto, my personal Instagram page at 511. Until next time, keep shredding.